to Toolbox LA.
Thanks for having me.
Have you ever been to Chatsworth?
No.
No.
I mean, I've been to the valley, all over the valley, to go to like the Great Greek or the ArcLight. So I used to live in Brentwood, and so we'd zip up the Sepulveda Pass on the 405, and we like to go to dinner up here. A lot of good restaurants,
Yeah.
a lot of good ethnic food.
Amazing Thai.
Incredible Thai.
Yeah.
And then a Great Greek restaurant called the Great Greek. I'm Greek. Calacanis is Greek. And the ArcLight Cinema, which has reserved seating.
Okay.
Which is a flaw in New York City and San Francisco, where they don't have reserved seating.
Yeah.
It's a disaster.
Chatsworth is a major industrial zone. So LA has a rich history in manufacturing.
Sure.
500,000 people employed in manufacturing, 12,000 manufacturers. So this is a big area for aerospace.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so we decided to create this community here for hardware entrepreneurs. So I'd like to ask you a few questions about your incubator and why you decided to start it.
Yeah. So I started angel investing 6 or 7 years ago in companies when I was living here in LA. Actually, I'd fly up to the valley every other week and just start investing in companies that my friends were starting or friends of friends. And after a couple of years of doing that, I realized there were 2 or 3 things that startups needed that they weren't getting in the market. And I needed a way to build a deeper relationship with the startups in a more efficient fashion. Because I started to have 50, then 100, then 150 portfolio companies. So I said, if we dedicate every Thursday afternoon from 2 to 5 o'clock to an incubator class of 6, 7, or 8 companies. We'll try to get 7, the Magnificent 7 we call it, or the Great 8, or the Super 6. Usually 7 or 8, and we have a 12-week course, and we have about 22 sessions, so almost 2 a week, and we introduce them to something in the neighborhood of 250 investors during that 12-week program, where they actually pitch that many investors. Some of them in the room, some of them on live streams. And if you can't pitch your company correctly, after 12 weeks and 18 sessions are focused on pitching your idea and getting candid feedback, and then you can't raise money, we know for sure one of a few number of things has happened. 1, you're terrible. 2, your idea is just horrible. 3, your execution is pathetic. Or 4, the venture community and the angel community is completely clueless and doesn't get your brilliance. And typically what it is people are too early. It is, in fact, that their idea might be just too early. Sometimes it's that investors just don't like the founder. They don't think the founder is going to succeed, which is always crushing to me because I try to pick the best founders and I think I'm pretty good at it. But sometimes investors, for example, don't like to invest in dating apps anymore. So if you bring a dating app out in the year Tinder came out, you easily get funded. If you bring a dating app out 3 or 4 years after Tinder, and Match.com gets big, and eHarmony and Plenty of Fish, and there's this big roll-up by IAC, people just think there's no opportunity. So the same idea at a different point in time could do fabulous or terrible, based on the investment community's view of the world. So we tried to solve that problem, which is just getting people who are starting companies very quickly, just 3 short months, to the point at which they can either get funded by $500,000 to $4 million, let's say, or get the feedback that the venture community does not like them at all.
So what stage are these companies at?
It's a great question. When we started, we had about half the companies had their products in the market with modest traction. And then half of them were almost had their products in the market. Now we exclusively do companies in the Goldilocks zone. The Goldilocks zone is something we designed. Not too hot, not too cold, but just right. If you remember the childhood fable of the porridge. And so many of the startups we meet are an idea, a prototype, a business plan. That's too cold. And then some of them already have raised $3 or $4 million in seed, and they've already closed their Series A, or they have 5 term sheets and they're picking between them. Well, then they probably are not going to get a ton out of our program. We'll get something. But they're already going to get a $5 million Series A. It's not really the point of an incubator, an early stage accelerator. So we are very focused on people who have their product in market and have modest traction. Modest traction would be, for an enterprise company, 5 to 15 customers, and maybe $5,000 to $100,000 a month in revenue. For a consumer product, it might be 5 or 10,000 people a day using it, and it might be 1 to 10 million people using it every month. What that means is an investor who comes to look at it will say, oh, there's something here I can start to understand. There's some data and traction we can look at. If it was 2007, 2008, we would be investing in companies that are pre-product market fit, pre-traction, and we'd be able to get them funded. But there's too many companies today, and the majority of companies don't get their products to market, but there's so many that do, and that fit into that Goldilocks zone, that there's no reason for us to go upstream to people with ideas or business plans. The best you can do is have an idea, you're not going to cut it in 2017, 2018, 2019. The population of people who have ideas is 100% of people who are awake and conscious, and probably half or 2/3 of people who are asleep, dreaming of different ideas. Our minds view ideas constantly, so you can't give yourself any credit for an idea. I would give yourself little to no credit for writing a business plan. I would give yourself little to no credit for writing a deck. And I would give yourself just a modest amount of credit for building a mock-up or a prototype. You really need to get an MVP to market and have it tested, and that's when you start to qualify for angel investment. If you can't get 2 or 3 people together in 2017 to build a product and get it to market, you've disqualified yourself from the big leagues of angel investing in proper venture capital.
So in terms of the incubator, how many companies have gone through at this point?
So we've done 7 classes of about 7. So about 45 have graduated and 47 have gone. 2 didn't graduate.
Okay. And so do you plan to continue?
Yeah, and probably increase it. Yeah. No, we've been investing in 30 companies a year, 40 companies a year. And I think probably in the next couple of years, I'll try to double that number. So I need a little more infrastructure. I have to hire 5 more people.
Okay.
We have 9 people right now. I really need more like 14. But I need people who are very intelligent and passionate about startups and very missionary based. I don't like mercenaries, I like missionaries.
Okay.
I like people who are dedicated to founders, dedicated to startups, dedicated to innovation, not just dedicated to a paycheck. So I hire very slowly.
So in terms of innovation in the United States, there's other countries that are starting to pick up pace.
Sure there are.
Produce unicorns. How can the U.S. stay relevant?
Well, the U.S. is so far ahead of everybody else. It's going to be very hard to displace the United States in the technology space. If you just think about what products we as Americans have used on a technology basis in the last year, most people have not used a product from Asia, let's say China, Korea, Japan. Most of us don't use any internet-based products from there, or video games, or even music or movies, to be candid. None of those things export out of those cultures to ours. Same is true of South America, and largely true of Europe. You'd have to look at legacy businesses to find that kind of exporting of culture. Mercedes, BMW, Toyota, some of these things do export here. Sony, some electronics, Samsung. But in general, internet companies, if you look at Uber, Airbnb, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Apple, Cisco, these all operate in over 100 countries, 700 cities in Uber's case, all around the world. So we are the net exporter of technology and culture to the world. We only have 300 million people here, but we are a large percentage of the world's GDP because of our very unique, freewheeling, economic, capitalist democracy. And people sometimes criticize it, it's out of control. You know what? Everybody around the world is trying to have an out-of-control, loathsome, out-of-control capitalist system like ours. So while people can criticize ours, the rest of the world is trying to emulate it and copy it. So Americans are a little bit ungrateful of the fact that we have Apple, Google, and all these companies. Doesn't mean there are not some things this country can do better. Of course there are. It's a long list of them, but this is the greatest country in the world to this day. You have Stockholm with 9 unicorns, which is pretty amazing on a per capita basis. They have 10 million people, so basically they have and 1 or 2 of those unicorns I think have left, or maybe one of them, SoundCloud, is not a unicorn anymore. But even if it's 7, it's like every 1.3 million people produce a unicorn. That's pretty impressive when you think about it. It's nothing compared to the ratio in the Bay Area. But a great entrepreneur can come from anywhere, but not everybody can be a great entrepreneur. So I have seen me traveling a lot these days with the book that just came out.
Yeah.
And so I actually moved the launch festival to Sydney for the next 2 years.
Wow.
And I am traveling to 4 international countries a year and doing 10 domestic trips a year. The reason I'm doing that is to find great entrepreneurs, meet them, look at their businesses, and then bring them back with me to literally kidnap them and relocate them to San Francisco, where they can take their modest success and make it extreme success.
Okay, so you mentioned Apple, Google,
Yeah.
Amazon. I mean, all those companies are venture backed. They know the playbook. So what kind of edge does a startup have
Yeah,
on a
startups.
massive company like that?
A startup's edge is clearly in their focus and their speed. So you can look at startups like Raptors. If you want to look at dinosaurs, they're really fast, they're really vicious, they work like a pack, if they're working well. And they can take down a Tyrannosaurus Rex or a big Brontosaurus pretty easily. Or they can take them down. It may not be easy, so you may lose a couple of raptors in the process. But the big companies tend to be slower. They take big steps, big footprints. So we're in a sort of an in-between stage. The legacy businesses, whether it's newspapers or retailers, they got their bells rung, right, by Amazon, and they were an upstart, or Craigslist, what they did to the classified business and newspapers, or what Google and Facebook have done to magazine, newspaper, and television advertising. It's been pretty amazing. They can fight back. I mean, in terms of television, you see some renaissance there. So it's not like you're going to just automatically defeat the incumbents. The new incumbents, Facebook, are particularly dangerous because Facebook does go fast, and Facebook has no morality. They have no ethics. They have no shame. They will offer $3 billion for Snapchat here in Los Angeles, not get it, and then decide they will copy for 3 or 4 years until they stop Snapchat. So they copied it with Coke, and they copied it with another app, then they did ephemeral messaging, then they did lenses and AR, then they put stories into, I believe, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. So the level of copying and the level of stealing and the low level of ethics out of Facebook presents the world with a competitor, or startups with a competitor that you cannot trust. So I highly recommend that no startup ever use Facebook Connect, because it's my belief, and I've heard this from many people, that Facebook studies Facebook Connect usage to figure out which startups to kill first. And so Facebook is a very untrustworthy organization, and you should not participate with them in any way. You should only stop, because it's going to keep going up because they don't care about morality. So young startups can stay focused, but if Facebook calls, I do not return the phone call unless you're ready to sell your company. And then even then, I'd be very careful, because they've been known to buy companies and screw the investors and screw everybody, and then just give the founders some, stock options. So I think Facebook's an immoral company, and I would not trust them. And you certainly should not use Facebook Connect or any of their API services.
Wow. So a lot of wisdom that you've imparted just here now, and we're excited to have you on stage. And I must say, I just finished your Angel book.
Oh, thank you for listening.
I've
reading.
Done it, listened to it once through,
Great.
and I'm on my second way through. So
I met somebody last night who listened to it 5 times.
wow.
Yeah, well, he really wants to be an angel investor, so he's really taking notes about it. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. You told me earlier that you really liked it. So.
You've inspired me in many ways. Yeah, including starting to play poker. So, and any parting poker tips you may have?
I think it's super important for women to play poker. I used to teach martial arts, and self-defense in New York to women. And there are certain things that women don't grow up with, like wrestling and roughhousing, right? Like if a bunch of women or a bunch of girls start roughhousing, immediately people stop them. Oh my God.
Yeah.
If a bunch of boys start roughhousing, it's like fine. So when I would teach women self-defense, they didn't know what it was like to be grabbed or to pull somebody or to punch somebody. And I had to teach them what it was like to get pulled and punched. And in fact, one of the things we did was with people in a properly safe environment, I had the students just grab each other I would have them wear their jackets over their knees, their uniforms. And I'd say, just grab the other person by the jacket and just shake them and throw them on the ground. Wow. We were on mats. And women were in shock because they had never been grabbed or thrown to the ground. And they were like, wait a second, now I know what it's like. So if they did get into a self-defense situation, they were prepared for it. Now, if you look at a game like poker is about aggression, it's about deception, it's about trying to crush the other person's soul, to manipulate them. Again, something women are, and I don't know if it's nature or nurture, but I know now that I have 3 daughters that if girls were trying to do something that was in any way mean-spirited or deceptive or lying or tricking a person to win, they would be admonished for that behavior. And if you look at poker, it really is about strategy. It's about beating people.
Yeah.
And as you know now, having played with women don't, on average, try to destroy the other person in poker. They don't try to be aggressive. But poker is about aggressive. When in doubt, bet. Because if you bet poker, now you have 2 ways to win. You have the best cards or the closest person can fold. If you just check and you call, you only really ultimately have one way to win, having the best cards. So you double your optionality by aggressively betting. You could scare the other person out of the pot, or you could win with the best cards. And this is something that I've seen it with women poker players. The great ones have a level of aggression that would not normally be associated with females. And I love when women...
So are they also angel investing, these women?
I see a lot more angel investing in women. And Cyan Bannister, who is one of my great collaborators, who both did Uber and Thumbtack, she loves poker. We play poker all the time. Okay. And women should learn strategy. They should learn how to fight, and how to protect themselves, and how to punch. My daughter's 7, and since the age of 4, I've been teaching her how to throw a proper punch. And if she were to punch you, I don't think she could knock out an adult, but she could break their tooth or nose with a punch.
I'll steer clear.
Well, it's important, I think, people, if we're going to have equality, right, women cannot be, society, I think, trains women to be weak and to be not aggressive and to, it puts them into a position of being victims and not strong. I think it's a terrible disservice by the patriarchy. I think women need to be strong. Women used to run the world. Many societies and cultures were run by women, by queens, and women were considered the powerful, the powerful member of the species, not the men, and certainly the more advanced ones. So I would like to see more of that in the world, and it's very rewarding with my team that we've been able to increase the number of women on stage, increase the number of women in the audience, and increase the number of women that we fund. We even have Female Founder University now, and we just said, you know what, we're not seeing enough female founders in the Goldilocks zone we talked about. Yeah. So what comes before the Goldilocks zone? Well, the prototype, the business plan. So we just said, anybody who is in the Goldilocks zone or right before it, come to San Francisco for 2 days for a free course on, which is essentially, we took the 12-week incubator program, we made it 12 hours. We made it free. We did it with Wilson Sonsini, a great law firm. And we had 400 women sign up, I think. 50 we had in person, and then we let the other 350 tune in on a live stream. And we're going to do it twice a year until we see the number of female founders increase. And we're going to do it for underrepresented minorities as well. So we're working with some partners right now to say, hey, if we see a ton of Indian and Asian entrepreneurs and they're overrepresented, great. They don't need any more help in the tech industry and entrepreneurship. They're doing great in terms of their representation. But we see very few African American and Hispanic founders, and let alone
They're all here in LA, Jason.
Well, we want to see more of them. We want to see more of them get funded. So getting them into our program and just keep moving up the stream as opposed to going down the stream. Instead of expecting them to have businesses that have already been funded, we look for the ones that haven't yet been funded, and we say, hey, here is how to get funded. Here is how to get your product to market. Here's how to pick a product. Some of the earlier stage skills. So I really feel like the world's trending, despite what's happening on a political basis. I really do feel like the world's trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
Startups are going to be a major part of the world getting better.
So I'm really looking to see Jason. Is that true? Alright, so tell me a little bit about Toolbox LA, what this facility is all about. It's an innovation hub here in San Fernando Valley. We're super excited to welcome Jason and Asher to our space. And I'll just read Jason's bio because it's pretty exciting. So, Jason Calacanis is a tech entrepreneur, angel investor, and the host of a popular weekly podcast. Raise your hand if you heard the podcast. As a scout for top-tier Silicon Valley venture capital firm Sequoia Capital, and later as an angel investor, Jason has invested in over 150 early-stage startups, including 4 that have reached billion-dollar valuations so far. His book, Angel. How many of you got a copy of that book by arriving early? About 100 of you. Lucky people. His book, Angel, How to Invest in Tech Startups, timeless advice from an angel investor who turned 100K into 100 million. Will be published by, or has been published by HarperCollins, and he lives in San Francisco. So put your hands together for Jason.
Okay. Can I have a microphone? Or do you just want me to use my text? And then Alex is going to ask me questions. Or do some questions. Hello, everybody. Oh, no.
There it is. The sound of God. Thanks for having me. I've been on board for since July 18th, and it's been wonderful.
I wrote this book. I think the batteries are dead. Do you have a second one? Perhaps a second one if you got one. This is definitely a battery issue. Test, 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 test. Can you hear me on this? Test, test, test. Yeah? In the back row? The speakers. So, I wrote the book because I wanted to explain to people, both founders, and I know the room's 2/3 founders, and angel investors, what I've learned in the last, 25 years as primarily an entrepreneur, but in the last 6 years as an angel investor. I started in the industry as a journalist, as some of you might know from the Silicon Valley Reporter days. I then started a blogging company called Weblogs Inc. Then I started a company with Sequoia. It's called Inside.com. It's email newsletters and SMS messages. It's a news company, very hard nut to crack, but we're getting there. And somewhere along the line, Sequoia said, would you invest money for us? Because we think you're smart, and you introduced us to a couple of interesting companies that we missed. And I said, what's the catch? They said, well, we'll give you the money, and we'll split the returns 50-50. And I said, what's the catch? And they said, nothing. It's like an early warning system. We have money, you have a network. Maybe we'll invest in those companies further down the line. So they gave me a slug of capital to go do this. And I invested in 16 companies. 3 of the first 5 or 6 turned into unicorns. And actually, since the writing of the bio, I have 6 unicorns. So I had 3 when I was at Sequoia: Uber, Thumbtack, and DataStax. And those companies were worth collectively $12 million. All 3 put together were worth $12 million when I invested in 4 million, 4 million, and I think 6 million. Then I invested in 2 other companies when I did a fund. One company called Desktop Metal, another one called Robinhood. Those recently became worth $1 billion. And I also am an advisor to a company called Wealthfront. I tried to invest. They didn't have any need for money. They had raised a bunch of money. So they said, we'll give you free shares to be an advisor. I said, what's the catch? They said, there's no catch. We just want you to help. And that's what angel investors do. We provide a network, we provide advice, we provide money. And most people come to me for the money. But the savvy ones say they're there for the advice and the network. But to be candid, as you can see looking out around the room, if your job is to write a check for a living, you get pretty popular pretty quick. It's not lost on me. Trust me, if I was sitting here just talking about entrepreneurship, there'd probably be 1/3 the number of people here. So I'm pretty cognizant of that and self-aware. Angel investing is very difficult in the early stages because there's very little to go on. So I thought I'd talk tonight a little bit about, since there's so many entrepreneurs in the room, what qualifies you to get an angel investment in 2017? Because the world has changed radically. And the world's going to change radically over the next 10 to 20 years. So it's worth us talking about both of those changes. What's changed in terms of the market for entrepreneurs, and what's also going to change. What's going to change is truly terrifying and inspiring at the same time. And the problems we're going to face as a society are going to be absurdly complex, multifaceted, and require massive collaboration and innovation. And it's going to require that we put down our weaponized words. Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, liberals, libertarians, bums. You get the idea. And really start looking at the methodology that we use as entrepreneurs, which is to try crazy ideas that we're fairly certain will fail, and then see if we can have a radical outcome. Imagine if I was a politician right now and I said to you, I have some crazy ideas that have a 2% chance of working. And I've talked to a bunch of experts and some entrepreneurs, and they also have 3 or 4 ideas that also have a 2 or 3% chance of working. But if these ideas work, they can solve our problems. But I just want to make sure I let you know that the majority case is that these 6 or 7 crazy ideas are probably not going to work. But if they do, they'll solve massive problems. How would that resonate with Americans? I wonder this, because that is the truth. The politicians come up and say, well, I have the solution. We're going to get all the jobs back. We're going to get all the jobs back from the people who've been stealing them. And then that will solve our problems. And that's just simply false. The problems we face are so massive and they're so complex. I'll just give you a couple of examples that I see in my job every day. Because the job of an angel investor is to meet with the smartest, boldest, maniacal, deranged, difficult people in the world who want to literally bend society and humanity to their vision that they believe is better. These are not balanced people. Balanced people do not change the world. If you think you can change the world by being balanced, namaste, you're wrong. It's not how it works. Entrepreneurship is an extreme pursuit, one that is filled with hardship. Most founders go through their days And I would say 9 out of 10 days are just brutally hard. Any founders in the room have 9 out of the last 10 days be just brutally hard? Raise your hand. And then, so that was, I think more people raised their hand to that than are you an entrepreneur? And I can tell you, the 9 days that were brutally hard are nothing compared to the 10th day, which is just soul crushing. There are no good days as an entrepreneur. There are 0 good days. There might be great hours or minutes, or perhaps the morning when you sell your company. Because the morning you sell your company, you high five, you cry, oh my God, we each made $10 million, $100 million. You don't have to worry about money again. You have lunch, you go to the gym, you get home, you put your feet up on the couch, and you go, fuck, I should have sold my company. God damn it, why did I do that? These guys are idiots. I could have built it bigger. I could have raised money. It's the stupidest fucking thing I've done. I'm a complete idiot. At least that's what I did, and a lot of other people I know have done. And then you don't sell your company, and then you face massive competition, and your $20 million offer for your company goes down to $2 million, and you feel like a bigger idiot. Entrepreneurship is hard. And here's what's going to happen over the next 10, 20 years. Retail jobs and jobs where people drive vehicles are going to go largely away in the next 10 to 20 years. That's 30 million American jobs. And I'm going to talk about this from an American point of view. I apologize if people from outside the country, if I was in another country, I would talk about it as well from an American point of view because I'm American. But the fact is, in this country, some large percentage of those 30 million jobs are going away. And those people are going to feel terribly wronged by losing their jobs to iPads, in the case of people working at registers. Anybody order from a kiosk or an iPad recently, fast food or something? Raise your hand. It's about 2/3 of the room. By the end of this year, 100% of you will have ordered lunch or food from an iPad. Anybody here ever work when they were a kid or at some point, or have a parent who worked as a cash register, at a cash register? Who worked at a cash register? Okay, it's almost everybody. All those jobs are gone, 100%. The idea that somebody will sit at a cash register would be as unbelievable in 3 short years as having somebody in a toll booth reeling in fumes to take back $3.75 and hand you $1.25. That, like, when we lost those jobs, did anybody say, like, oh my God, the poor toll booth clerks? No, we said, thank God you don't have to live in a box with carbon dioxide all around you, killing you in this, like, torturous employment concept of a person in a box in a bridge. But we all have great sympathy for people to not have work. The level of entitlement in our country has never been so high. We have people who believe that they deserve a jet, or to be famous, or to have 1 million Instagram followers, to have no talent, to have a jet, to have no talent, to have 1 million Instagram followers. This is not how it ever works. And then we have people who think, I don't have any skills, but my ideas are my skills. And that's not how it works either. The population of people with ideas is 100% of people who are awake. The population of people with $1 million idea, 100% of the people who are awake. The population of people who have $1 million idea is probably half the people who are asleep right now, dreaming of some crazy idea. Our minds just spew ideas. You get 0 credit for that. If you have an idea and it's brilliant, congratulations. Everybody sitting in this room has had an idea that's as good or better in the last 30 days. You get 0 credit for your ideas. If you take your idea and you put it on paper in a business plan, that's just like writing in your dream journal. You get 0 credit for that as well. If you have a dream journal and you bring it to a VC and say, these were my dreams, they don't give you a check. If you make a PowerPoint deck and you put charts and a little bit of research around your dream journal, you also get 0 credit in 2017. 0 credit. If you build an MVP, a minimum viable product, and you let 10 people use it, and you study the numbers, you now get credit. You're now on your journey as an entrepreneur. If you cannot build an MVP, if you cannot get 3 or 4 people together to give up 100 hours of their life each, you do not deserve to be an entrepreneur. Let me be clear. You deserve and are entitled to nothing. 0. There is a crazy concept going around, and everybody gets to be a successful entrepreneur. A successful entrepreneur can come from anywhere, but not everybody can be a successful entrepreneur. It requires work, just like being a Navy SEAL or playing in the NBA. That's the equivalent. Just because I want to play for the Warriors does not mean I'm qualified. Because I write it down on a piece of paper doesn't mean I'm qualified. I mean, I might qualify for the Knicks at this point. I'm a Knicks fan. We can, after what we've been through since Patrick getting retired, we can be self-deprecating. But we have the unicorn. We have Porzingis. There is hope. And this is the reality. Many people are at home thinking that they can be an entrepreneur with no skill. When we talked before about every driver and every person working in retail almost universally losing their job. The ones who don't lose their job will eventually be like the people in Central Park riding carriages. Like they'll be there to remind you that this is how people used to ride in carriages, or the people who do Civil War reenactments. They're not actual soldiers. It's not actually their job. They're just there pretending that they're Civil War soldiers. That's what those jobs will be. If you go to a retail store or a barista or have somebody driving a car for you, they'll be doing it to show you what the world used to be look like an Epcot Center or something. So, what does that mean for humanity? Well, it means we're going to have to start thinking about ideas that are much more groundbreaking and that may fall into areas that you thought you were in a different bucket of. I always thought of myself as a libertarian and a less government kind of guy. Government stay out of my life. Less government is better. But now I've started thinking about it and I wondered, gosh, if people didn't need to worry about their health care, and people could go to school for maybe 2 more or 4 more years, well, that would lower the number of people who were in the workforce, which would lower unemployment because there'd be more jobs. And maybe they would be more risk-taking because the number one reason I hear from older entrepreneurs as to why they don't start a company, because of their health care. They literally cannot afford to leave their job, not because they can't afford to lose their salary, but they can't afford to lose a $2,200 a month healthcare payment. And in a place like Stockholm, Sweden, they have 9 unicorns with 10 million people living there, 10 million population, about 1.1 million people per unicorn. And one of the reasons they speculate is they have such a great safety net. A safety net might make us more entrepreneurial. And we are the most dogged, entrepreneurial, neurotic country in the world, bar none. How many people here used a web product, an app, or a technology product from China this week? What product?
AliExpress.
Which one?
AliExpress.
AliExpress? Alibaba Express. What is it? I know Alibaba is eBay. What's Alibaba Express? Oh, retail here in the United States? Oh, so, yeah, there's like 2 people. And anybody else got one? What do you? Okay, great. So we have one company that people have used from China, and there are some companies like we use cars from Germany and cars from Japan, and I think there's some from Korea. But then if we were here if we were in Japan or Korea or China, we said, what American products do you use? They would say Apple, they would say Google, they would say Yahoo, they would say, not Uber anymore, but they'd say Microsoft. And if you go around the world, we build the companies that 100 or 200 people views, 100 to 100, over 100 country views. So we have this massive entrepreneurial system that works here. But it only continues to work if people continue to add skills. And Asher can come up and interview me, but this is my one pet peeve / demand of young people today. You cannot succeed in the world without skill. And you cannot have skills unless you have the discipline and the chutzpah and the resolve to acquire them. Here's the good news. Every skill in the world is currently on YouTube, a podcast, for free on the internet, or Wikipedia, or in a book, and edX, Coursera, and every Khan Academy, Treehouse, Lynda.com. It's all available online for free or for $20 a month. You no longer have an excuse. When I was growing up, I could say I can't get into MIT, I can't get into Harvard, I can't get into NYU, I don't have access to this information. This generation, if you're going to Coachella or Summit at Sea or Web Summit or watching 5 hours of television a day, which is what the average American does, and you're not adding skills, it's your own fault. The opportunity is sitting there waiting for you.
So no excuses, no excuses. And now we're going to open it up, not quite yet, to Q&A after we hear from Asher Leeds. Asher Leeds is a very well-known angel in the LA tech scene, a good friend of Jason's. He's a lawyer by trade, so who better to lead Q&A with him?
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you again, Jason. So let's get right to it. I think everybody here wants to not hear from me.
How was my tirade?
You're as awesome as usual.
I'm a little bit upset these days. I'm a little content. I think it's Trans got me on tilt. I'm a little on tilt after the weekend. Is everybody else on tilt a little bit? No. Am I the only one who's getting infuriated? I'm kind of like getting infuriated. I feel like I need to go on a march. I guess we're like marching somewhere tonight. I'm just so fucking upset right now after this last Habs weekend. It's just infuriating. I couldn't sleep. Like just thinking about the president calling just good people sons of bitches, and this insanity that's going on. It's not who we are as a country. And to see the Republicans now starting to break rank. And it was very touching on Monday Night Football to see Jerry Jones in Texas. So you know what? Listen, I don't agree with taking a knee during the national anthem. That would never occur to me as something to do. I was always thought like, oh my God, stand at attention. But I also think people have the right, if they've been wrong, to protest whatever they damn please, as long as they're not hurting anybody. And to see Jerry Jones, who I know is as conservative as those people get in Texas. To see him saying, you know what, I don't agree with this either. Everybody's getting off that train. Everybody's getting off that train. And here's the good news. 1,210 days and a wake up. And we will get this guy out of office. Let's stop talking about politics.
I may have to put you on the spot. You may have to do your impression, because he does have a great impression here.
I don't want to do any impressions. Great impressions. Football players, sons of bitches. I'm not.
Sorry. I think Alan has a competition there, by the way. So let's get to the book here. So it looked like from when they asked the audience who founders here, I don't know if there are many investors out there, but it looks like it's mostly founders, so I'm going to maybe look at it from the founders' perspective.
Yeah.
So one of the things you put in the book, and what I realize is the book is written from both perspectives. Really.
It is, yes.
So one of the things you put in the book is 4 questions to ask founders. And founders, it's very important that they should understand this. Why don't you go through kind of that for the founders so they can really understand that?
I like to ask, there's a number of questions you can ask. I like to ask very short questions, because having been on the other side as an entrepreneur, you have a very short period of time with these investors. And the worst experience is when you meet with an investor and they tell you everything about themselves, what they've done, what's wrong with your business, and what you should do. This is infuriating. And so we have an expression in the venture community, big ears, small mouth. So I always have a 3-hour rule for meeting with founders. I always meet with them for a full hour. But before I meet with them, I spend an hour getting ready, and after I meet with them, I spend an hour thinking about their business and crafting a response to them, and if I'm going to invest or not, and what I think of their business. And sometimes I can't hit it, but I almost universally hit it. And I always like to start with, what are you up to? What are you working on? It's a very short question, but it does two things. It lets them know from the beginning that I'm interested in work, of doing the work, and that I'm interested in what they're doing. And it lets them speak freely about what they're doing. And I let them talk until they're out of it. One of the questions I love to ask, it's a very popular question, is why now? Which means the longer version of those two words is, why is this business going to work now when it might not have worked in the past? And YouTube, we all know, was not the first website to host video. We all had the Real Player or Broadcast.com or any number of places would serve up video. But the why now for YouTube was that they saw very early on that cloud computing and the plummeting costs of storage space and the plummeting costs of bandwidth in 2005, 2006 was going to make it possible for them to put videos up for free and not charge people. When you first tried to put a video on the web in the 90s or the early 2000s, you had to put your credit card in. And then you had to take a deep breath and wonder, if 5,000 people see this, I'm going to lose $50. But if 5 million people lose it, I'm going to lose $5,000 or $50,000. So your reward for going viral was going broke. What YouTube realized was, well, we can put ads on top of this and split it with the people putting videos up, and the reward for going viral would make 55 cents on the dollar, whatever advertising we could sell. That was the why now. There were some other why nows as well. One of them was that Flash had created a video server, and 98% of browsers had Flash in it. So if you had Flash, you didn't have to install the Real Player or go through this painful, arduous, crapware installation. So that was another why now. And there was a third why now, which was blogs were getting big, and they made a little code called syndication. You could take a clip of HTML and drop it into your blog and have that video on your blog. So not only did you not have to pay, you could put the video on your site and not pay. These were very amazing little technological why nows. Uber had an amazing why now, which was the App Store came out and phones had GPS on them, smartphones. And if you look at a company like Airbnb, there's a great lesson in Airbnb that I learned, which is, I don't need to know, and we call it internally at my company, Jason's Law. You'll never guess when we came up with this name, but it's because I always tell people in my company, we don't need to know if the idea is going to succeed. We need to know if the founder is going to succeed at any point in their life. Because Uber was Travis's third company. We know Travis very well. Zynga was Mark Pincus's fifth company, I think. Twitter was Evan Williams' third company. And so you are investing as an investor in the arc of a founder's career. I've invested in about 5 or 6 people twice, and I'm about to start hitting my third investment in 400 people over the last 7-8 years. If you try to figure out if the idea is going to work, you will universally talk yourself out of it. Why? Why? Well, the list of reasons of why an idea will not work is very long. It's about 100 times longer than the list of reasons of why something might work. And so, if I were to list all the reasons of why Airbnb would work, I would have never invested in Airbnb. I didn't have the opportunity, but when they told me that idea, I just said to myself, you sleep on another person's couch. How many people here have stayed in an Airbnb? Raise your hand if you've stayed in an Airbnb. Okay, raise your hand if you have hosted somebody in an Airbnb. Okay, there's another 10. When I heard this idea, they said, hey, you can stay in somebody else's extra bedroom or on their couch, and you only pay $50. And I said, like a serial killer's house? And they said, no. They have a reputation system, and people review the person. I was like, oh, okay, so they can kill like the 10th person. And they get good reviews and make everybody breakfast in the morning. They're like, you don't get it. I was like, yeah, I don't get it. And you can also host people and make money. So if you're stuck cash and you got an extra bedroom, if you rent it out, 20 nights a month, it's $1,000, and that might be your mortgage payment. So it's a big deal for people. I was like, yeah, like serial killers who want to kill the people and bury them in their basement. Like, oh, look, it's got a reputation system. So I didn't get it. But as we just saw, you all are doing it. And I even said to somebody, like, somebody's going to rent their house for a crack or a meth party. And of course that happened. There was a big meth party. And then I started thinking about why was I so biased against this Airbnb thing when there are 100 hotel rooms right now on Sunset Boulevard filled with rock and roll stars and degenerates doing massive amounts of drugs, destroying rooms. Like, hotels have dealt with rock stars on Sunset Boulevard doing drugs, throwing televisions out the windows, breaking everything. They fix it, they have insurance, they arrest people. There's a safeguard for this kind of behavior. And when I met two founders I really respected, they said, come have brunch with us, we want to show you this new product. And I said, okay. Now, how does it work? And they said, well, give us your BlackBerry. I said, what do you want my BlackBerry for? They said, well, it works over SMS. I'll show you. Text 40404, sign up at Jason. Hit return. Okay, you're signed up. Okay, now say follow at Biz, follow at BV. So I type that into my SMS. It says, you're now following. I said, okay. Then Evan said, now watch. Biz is going to write what he's having for breakfast, huevos rancheros. I'm going to write on the Toolbox scramble, and you write that you're having the Grand Slam or whatever. Everybody writes what they have. And then my phone goes, bing, bing. And I looked at Evan Williams and I said, Evan, number one, it just cost me 8 cents. 4 cents each, because SMS used to cost money. And I said, number two, nobody gives a shit what Biz Stone is having for breakfast. Or you, Evan, or me. It's the stupidest, most inane thing that's ever been built in the history of the internet. You are going backwards in your career, my friend. You created Blogger. And Blogger used to offer $50 million to Google, and it had blog posts. And you just got rid of the blog posts where people would write 4, 5, 6 paragraphs to explain their position. And what did you leave? The headline. You left the headline. Do you realize if Twitter succeeds, it's going to be a cacophony of idiots? It's going to be the stupidest people in the world writing fragments of sentences. They're never going to complete a thought. And yeah, true. In a way, it's exactly what's occurred. What I missed was that everybody would join, and people who don't normally have a voice would be able to interact with people who have a very powerful voice. And journalists would be able to talk to Trump, and Trump would be able to talk to Hillary. Hillary would be able to talk to the FBI, and you could literally talk to anybody. And sometimes people reply to you. It's magic. And sometimes people start revolutions, like in Egypt. I had a similar experience right after that, where my friend said, "Hey, you play high stakes poker, right, Jason?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm playing with you. I'm taking your money." And my friend Mark said, "Hey, I know you're really good at it. I want you to be an investor and an advisor in my company." I said, "What's the company?" He goes, "You know Facebook?" I was like, "Yeah." Like, well, it's going to be open to everybody, not just college kids. I said, "Yeah, I know. I met this kid, Zuckerberg. He's a real dork." He was super dark. He still is kind of. And he says, "Well, they're going to have this platform, and then I'm going to make a poker game on there." I said, "Yeah, but they don't allow gambling on there." I know that for a fact, because I know the Full Tilt people, the Poker Stars people, I'm a Full Tilt Red Pro, like, they've been trying to get on Facebook, they had the same idea. It's like, yeah, we're not gonna let people gamble money, we're gonna do virtual currency. And I look at it, it's like, Mark, you have no idea what you're talking about. If you cannot play poker for virtual chips, because the whole point of poker is to play with real money, so that when you raise, it causes people to fold. If it's fake money, why would you ever fold? You just shove them all in every hand. It's going to be a shove fest. It's going to be a bunch of idiots just throwing chips around and make no sense. And then more people started playing Zynga poker on Facebook, and were playing real poker on Poker Stars and Full Tilt. And they were paying for virtual chips, which had no value. So they were literally had zero chance of a return. They were guaranteed to lose whatever chips they made. So once again, the first one was a $50 million mistake. The next one was a $25 million to $50 million mistake. And so when Travis came up to me and said, "Hey, can I show you what I'm working on?" I said, "Can I invest?" And he said, "Do you want to know what it is?" I said, "I certainly would love to know what it is after you agree to let me invest." And he said, "Okay." He shows it to me. It's Uber, taxi. And I said, "Well, that's a really bad name. These are Lincoln Town Cars, not taxis. It's completely confusing." And he's like, "Yeah, no, we know." I was like, "You should just call it Uber. That's a good name. Get Uber.com." He said, "We're working on it." I said, "Oh, wait. Do you know that in the movie that Sean Parker gets credit for taking the off of Facebook?" Travis is like, "Yeah." I said, "Can I get credit for taking the taxi off of Uber Taxi in the movie? When they make the movie about Uber?" And he's like, "Okay." "We're going to do it anyway." I was like, I just want credit." He's like, "Fine, whatever." So I got credit for that. So the movie, it's not exactly accurate, but hopefully we'll get it in there. And that's when I just realized, I still make a long list of why things will fail. And then I just rip it up. I throw it away. Who gives a shit of why it's going to fail? What matters is the one or two reasons of why it might succeed. And this is where gambling has become a huge asset to me. There's a concept in poker called implied odds. So when you start playing high stakes poker, you've got $50,000 in front of you, I got $50,000 in front of me. And I know that if I get any one of these 9 cards on my flush, that I am going to beat your set of aces or your aces or whatever you have. I know you have a strong hand. And I've got a 20% chance. But you only bet $1,000 or $2,000. But I know that my hand is really well disguised and I hit runner, flush. So you don't think I'm on a flush. I might get that whole stack of 50,000. That's like the implied odds. That's when I say, you know what, this is worth it. If I were to ask everybody in the audience here, who wants to give me $1,000, and if you pull the ace of spades out of the deck, I'll give you 100,000. How many people would take that? It's like 8 people, 10 people. Those people are gamblers. They know there are 52 cards in the deck. So it is an incredible deal. You have a 2% chance. I'm offering you for 1% the chance to have a 2% chance of winning. And the correct answer is, well, how many times do we get to do it? Because if you ask me, do you want to take that deal? I'd say, yes, I'd like to take that deal for 1 million draws. Because I will bankrupt you very quickly. And we as creatures are so scared. We're scared little humans because we're scared of being eaten by lions and tigers and crocodiles and everything else, that we just overestimate the downside risk, even in the face of a logic that says the 1% chance of figuring something out. If I said there was a 1% chance of figuring out how to make a new energy source that would be 1,000 times cheaper than any other energy source we have right now, and it would just cost us, $1 trillion to figure it out, and it's a 1% chance. No government's going to pay that $1 trillion, but an entrepreneur might actually start pursuing that because they realize, well, if there's a 1% chance and I start getting close to that, we could actually save the planet and we could have renewable energy. And that entrepreneur is Elon Musk, right? So you have to be willing to understand odds and pursue long odds for incredible outcomes. Carmen.
Hola, amigos. We have time for 2 drop the mic questions. So, right there. What do you got?
Please wait for the microphone. And now, let's just have some ground. an exceptional question, and if the person does a plug, I want everybody to groan, like, oh. Like, they say, like, so at my law firm, we protect IP, the trademark service, everybody just groan. Okay, now answer the question.
Talk about skills.
Yeah.
What would you say are the top 3 skills that are required from your perspective for sort of as you get going into the next decade?
Sure, great question. The number one skill in the world, good question, that's no groan, zero groan question. The number one skill is the ability to learn new skills quickly. And so I have been training my internal team of 9 to learn new skills quickly. 2 years ago, we kept hearing about our portfolio companies doing email automation. And they were doing things like outreach and streak and this idea of like sending a sequence of email to a person. If the person doesn't open the email, send a second one, A/B testing. And I just insisted that everybody in the company learn how to do it. And a lot of people were fighting it. I just sat everybody down and I said, listen, to work at this company, you have to be willing to acquire new skills and become bionic. If you're not willing to become bionic, if you're not willing to be cyborg, if you're not willing to be just have the power of 10 humans, then don't come work here anymore. Because if you can figure out how to do this stuff, you can become bionic. And we started to figure that stuff out. And so learning how to learn new skills is the number one. There are some other skills that will always be an intangible that humans will have an advantage over machines, or at least in our lifetime, let's say. One of them is being able to hire people and to recruit people. Now, there might be tons of technology like assessment software that assesses how good you are at something when you apply, like runs you through actual code tests, runs you through actual customer support questions. But the ability to convince somebody to join a team and identify a missionary over a mercenary. A missionary is what you want, somebody who will fight the fight because they believe in the mission, like the movie The Mission, as opposed to mercenaries like Boba Fett, who are like, oh, you need to get Luke Skywalker? Great. I'll get you Luke Skywalker. I'm gonna take the Han Solo. You don't need him, right? No, you don't need Han Solo? Great. I'll take Han Solo. I'm gonna sell him to Jabba the Hutt. I'm gonna get you, Luke Skywalker, and I might grab some other shit along the way. Boba Fett's out for Boba Fett. He was working the Rebels and he's working the Empire. Be careful with those people. Like, they can be highly effective at a task, but you bring them into your company, they will fuck it up. And so you want to be, that's another skill. Another great skill is the ability to sell. And storytelling. These seem like soft skills, but the ability to craft a message and say, this is what our product is, this is what we do, and explain it to people and get them on board. And the ability to sell people, which is also storytelling and persuasion. You know, when I meet people in business school, I say, well, what are you going to do with a business degree? And they don't know. You have a Han Solo carbonite. That's purse. He's no good to be dead. You'll be compensated if he dies. I have a couple other questions. Anyway, another question.
All right, draw my question number 2 from lady.
What, like?
Ladies.
Where my girls at?
Go.
There she is. That.
Just throw.
I like it.
Okay.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
And so the question is.
If you like this presentation, you're going to love the book.
So the first part of your you really sounded like socialists. They want to save the world, they'll not live there anymore, we need government, we need education. Where does the money come from?
Yeah, so it's a great question. We have these names that we call each other, and socialist is a derogatory one in most people's minds, right? You're a socialist, because it sounds like communist. And I think if you look at Bernie Sanders, oh wow, he's a socialist, right? He wants to give people free college. Well, we used to give people free city college in New York, I'm not sure about every state, for 2 years. And if he had said, or if I was running, I'm not saying I'm running. I'm not saying I'm not running. Mayor J. I have the domain name mayorjason.com. Leave it at that. So if I said to you, currently we have pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, and then 1st through 12th grade. We provide 14 years of education. Our society has grown so large, and we're in such competition with the rest of the world, that we're going to make an investment and go from 14 years of school and education, and we're going to add 2 more years of specific vocational and trade school to the end. And we're going to add for people who make under $50,000 a year, 1 year of nursery school at the beginning, so they can work on their careers and have a little bit of a safety net. And that'll affect 50 million people who are under the poverty line, and it's going to affect, another 25 million people coming out of high school, because rich people will still go to private schools. It wouldn't seem so radical, would it? I'd be going from 14 to 17 years in school. Doesn't seem like that big of a deal. So I'm starting to unpack what people call socialism and just say, let's just come up with creative solutions. And here's a creative solution. If you're rich, let's get rid of capital gains. Trust me saying getting rid of capital gains is going to cost me tens of millions of dollars. I don't give a shit. I have more money than I can ever use at this point in my life. I don't need to save an extra 10% of my taxes. But the majority of my income comes from capital gain, comes from the gains on stocks, which is capital gains. Why would I get an advantage over teachers and nurses and doctors and waiters? So we spent decades optimizing for the rich, and then we've also polarized all this, and we have a polarization of wealth that's never been seen. Now, we want to have gravity capitalism so that we are the net exporter, like I said earlier, of great companies and great culture and great technology. But there is no point for us to become fabulously wealthy at the high end, to have 20% unemployment of young men. Because anytime you hit that number, you can see it in Egypt, you can see it in Greece, you can see it in many countries in the Middle East when it's happened. People riot in the streets. And when Occupy Wall Street decided during the recession, the Great Recession, 2008 time period, that they would surround Michael Bloomberg's house, this was the beginning. And luckily the economy rebounded. Those people got jobs, and they got Uber, and they got Airbnb, and iPhones, and shit was awesome. So they kind of forgot about how disgruntled they were. But the next time we have a bus cycle, which could be these 30 million jobs going away, they might camp outside of Michael Bloomberg's house, or Larry Page's, or Mark Zuckerberg's in Palo Alto, which has one security guard outside of it. If 1,000 dirty, hippie, angry, males start throwing rocks, God forbid, at billionaire houses, those billionaires are going to say, please, take more of my money. It's every rich person I know wants to pay more tax. And we have somebody in office right now whose platform is for rich people to pay less tax in the face of rich people saying, no, I don't want to pay less tax. This is a bargain. What you can do in this country is a bargain. And so that's where the money's going to come from. And when you start lining up the numbers and you start looking at this polarization of wealth, the idea that, poor people have to pay any tax, poor people, it might be fine for poor people to pay a token tax, so they feel like they're part of the system. But the idea that they would pay for healthcare or pay for vegetables and stuff like that, when we can easily make these things free, it would have zero impact on any budget. It's just farcical and it's not true. And this is where I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. I'm a humanist and an innovator. I spend my time working with humans to try to innovate to solve problems. I'm going to start a political party someday, which is going to be called the Innovation Party. We can innovate our way through these problems, but you cannot argue your way through these problems if your only reason for arguing is to win. There's no reason for the Democrats and these Republicans to try to beat each other in an argument. We have to beat the problems. We have to beat global warming. We have to beat poverty. We have to beat an education system that's now 25th in the world,
when we should be number one. How is America the number one country in terms of GDP per citizen? How can we be this wealthy, be this powerful, and have the shittiest education system? This is fucking criminal. We should be taking, and if you went to the top 5% of Americans and said, we're going to have a tax for the next 20 years, and the explicit goal of that tax is to take us from number 25 in the rankings in education to number 1. Would you like to participate, yes or no? 95% are going to say yes. The only 5% are going to say no are just douchebag people or senile or have some crazy moral objection to it. There's no rich person who doesn't want to see everybody move forward together. And there is no glory in being successful and leaving people behind. And people want to blame Silicon Valley and these other, thank you. But people want to blame Silicon Valley for being heartless and all this kind of stuff. I can tell you, the inevitable thing I see happen when people accumulate great wealth is a tremendous sense of guilt and responsibility, sometimes even depression. Like, I have billionaire friends, or centimillionaire friends, who are struggling with depression because they don't feel they deserve what they earned. And the only way they alleviate themselves is by giving their money away. Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, Warren Buffett, all these people are taking the pledge to give it all away, to give the majority away. Even Jeff Bezos, who became the richest person in the world for a brief period, what did he do that day? He tweeted, how can I give my money away now to help the world? He literally publicly tweeted that because I think for him it was a very uncomfortable moment. I can tell you, the cheeseburgers don't get any better over $25. Like, there's a $25 cheeseburger made with Kobe and short rib and got a little truffle on it. It's pretty fucking amazing. Not that much better than an In-N-Out burger. Not that much better than Five Guys. It's better. And so you get to this point, and it's a very complicated thing with wealth. And I struggle with it myself because my parents were so poor and they ran out of money and they were chasing their credit card bills. It becomes a very psychologically challenging existential thing for people. And we can solve these problems together, but just the Democrats and the Republicans are not the people to do it. We need a third party.
An innovation party.
It's a 5% chance right now. I figured if you get the domain name, that's like 4% of the word. And then 1% is having your friends put up $1.5 million, which a couple of my friends said, we want you to run for mayor of San Francisco, and we'll each give you $250,000. And they put up $1.5 million, and it's not a joke. But I've got work to do investing, so I don't think I can do it this 2019, but maybe the one after.
Right.
I'm set.
Raise your hand if you are bionic, bold, what else? Maniacal founder. Right. So you may be one of the 3 people chosen to pitch to Jason. You have 2 minutes to pitch with a 1-minute feedback. Right, so the first founder up is Joshua Way. Second founder to pitch, Clifford Sarkin. Here. Got a lady. Vanessa Merlin. That's right here. All right. 2 minutes, you will be timed and learning to us.
All right, everybody, let's be present. Namaste. Let's all give them our complete attention. Stare at the founder. Do not look at your phone. Stare right in his eyes.
Ready, set, go.
Well, good evening, Jason, and good evening, everyone here at the Lake Toolbox. My name is Joshua Webb. I hope you become a software developer. I have an idea for an application I think it helps with education. I myself have struggled with English since I was in kindergarten all the way to grade school. I really only started to really get it when I was in 10th grade when I got a D. And I really feel that English is so powerful that I feel that other people feel the need to figure out how powerful it is immediately. So I have this idea for an application in which you can type a sentence onto a computer, and then it generates an image of the story that you're telling in the sentence. And I have a background in PHP, C++, JavaScript. I know how to do object-oriented programming. I have an idea of how to get it to work. I'm being a developer right now. And if you're interested right now, I know that you're thinking that there are 1,000 reasons why I can build. One reason why I know it will succeed is people will understand English better. And the other reason why is that people can actually tell creative stories with this new format that I want to design. Okay?
Let's give him a big round of applause.
How do you plan on generating revenue?
How do you make money is this question.
Good question. I was thinking that I either sell it to the schools, one which they could benefit masses into the campuses. Maybe in other ways that I can sell to the parents in order to convince them there would be a great educational value to my software. Third thing could be that maybe I'll make it available for free. Maybe I might have some minor revenue coming in through the advertisements.
Okay, great. So, this is I would say, a strong pitch because it's identified a real problem. People are challenged with speaking English. And we know that there are problems for this in the market, and we know there's a need for it. So then it becomes, what is your behavioral hook in the product? What is the device, the delivery mechanism? We might ask, why now? Why would you, what technology can you use now to make this happen? Artificial intelligence, community, social, VR, AR, there's all different ideas of, if your mission is to help people become better writers, there's ways to do that. One example is there's a company called Grammarly, and Grammarly is $10 a month, and I pay for it for all my employees and writers at Inside, because we spend $100 a month on this, $1,200 a year, because we need to get it right. And Grammarly really gets into very refined discussions in the product of where to put the comma and different overused words. So there is a market for this. So then you have to ask yourself, which market would build sustainability? And I'll give you just a couple of ideas to think about. The first is subscription services in the App Store are doing phenomenal. How many people here have a monthly subscription to an app? Anybody? All of them. How many people have 2 monthly subscriptions? Keep your hand up if you have 3. Keep your hand up if you have 4. And keep your hand up if you have 5. Okay, this tells you everything you need to know. Monthly subscriptions in the App Store work. Right, Brown Fox, that's eating the apple. And you just see it in your report. Like, people would sit there and play with that and think kids would think it was hilarious. And then if I could export it to Snapchat or another service and save it as a video with at the bottom story time or VR story time, this would be incredible. And so don't be afraid to make money early. Don't be afraid to have cutting-edge customers. Don't be afraid to embrace some new technology. Or don't be afraid to use an established monthly recurring revenue to do it. But remember what I said earlier. You get no credit for your ideas. You only get credit for what you build. And your ability to convince other people to work on this project with you for sweat equity. So go find 2 developers, and if you're a developer yourself, so you're a developer. Yeah, so you have to build the prototype and show me the prototype, and I will tell you, this is great, this sucks, keep working. And then you get 2 or 3 customers, and I'll say, this is great, charge more, you get to 30 customers, and then I would invite you to my incubator possibly. So just remember, you will be judged on what you build, not on what you conceive of. Let's give them another round of applause.
After Jason, my name is Clifford Sarkin. My startup's called Metamason. And I definitely had the applied arts of our 2 raffle tickets. The advice to everyone out there to work in life. And then this is part of this larger movement called mass customization, which is changing the way we make products so that more of the things that you engage with in your life aren't just made for someone like you, small, medium, large, extra large, size 11 and 12, but are actually made for you. So we're building a technology that combines 3D scanning on the one end with 3D printing on the other. And the market that we're starting with is sleep apnea. I don't know if you know what sleep apnea is, but it's your airway that actually touches when you sleep, creating apnea, suffocate yourself. People that have obstructive sleep apnea have like 100 to 200 of these events every night. The best therapy, 85% of people that are diagnosed with sleep apnea are prescribed CPAP, continuous positive airway pressure, which is positively pressurized air through a hose into a mask into your airway, keeping your airway open. And it actually works. People like it, except there's a bunch of negative side effects, all having to do with mask fits. Because every mask on the market comes small, medium, large, extra large, the no two faces are the same. So we at Medicine are going to, next year, once we get FDA clearance, have the first ever truly personalized CPAP mask for people with sleep apnea. So we've been around 3.5 years. We've had a little bit of funding. We're always looking for more. We're going through the FDA clearance process, and then we're going to market hopefully next year with the first truly personalized CPAP mask using 3D scanning and 3D printing.
Great. So what will be your first question or two when you hear a pitch like this as an angel?
Oh, so well, you answered the why now, because 3D printing has come along. Customization part of it is not kind of the answer. So,
Yeah, on both ends.
so that part has been answered. So I'm going to say here, how do you, what got you into doing this? So why are you doing this? Why are you pursuing this?
Good question. So I'm actually returning to an entrepreneur. This is my first time as a founder, but I got to help scale 2 different tech companies before this. And really, like, the reason I personally went to law school and doing what I'm doing is I'm a helper. Like, I'm here to help make the world a better place, help people to do what they do. And this technology, whether the biggest application for it really right now is Invisalign braces and hearing aids. Products where they're actually made for you and help you do what you want to do better.
Okay.
And so I'm getting to be a part of helping you.
Okay. It's not a great answer.
Okay.
It's a good pitch. It's a very good pitch. It's a terrible answer. When a founder asks you, why are you doing this? To just babble on about like you're a helper, it's not as strong as something to the effect of, I have sleep apnea, that would be the number one. I have somebody in my life affected by sleep apnea. Or I liked that you started to dance around the end, which is, I saw a company make personalized braces. Braces have 400,000 installations a year, and they cost on average $2,000. Sleep apnea costs this amount, and there are 4 times as many people who suffer from it. Therefore, I saw the market opportunity in braces first, and I studied all the different possible verticals that mass customization could work on, from sneakers, which Shaquille O'Neal tried 15 years ago to mass customize, all the way to braces. And this one has the massive upside in need. And we think if we figure this one out, we have the next 7, which I won't say here, but I would love to tell you about in a private meeting. So now I've secured the private meeting. But well done. It's a good idea.
Thank you for your time.
Big round of applause. Here's a founder I already know.
So my name is Cass Roman. I'm the founder of Decorator. So Decorator is crowdsourcing interior design. We're the first company to connect homeowners who are looking for design advice with non-professionals with design enthusiasts, people who love interior design. So the way it works is anybody can post a photo of a room in their home and explain what they're looking for, and then anybody here can use our really simple interior design tools to drag and drop actual furniture into the room and also top on the walls to paint them. So the way we make money is through these furniture sales. If all of the buy button clicks that we've gotten from the past 30 days converted into sales, we would have made $4,000 in the past month. We were featured on the homepage of the App Store a month ago. Apple shows us in the new App Store section. So right now we're a team of 4. We're in Santa Monica. We're very engineer focused. So my background is computer science. We also have 2 other engineers on my team and a UI UX designer who came formerly used to work for one of our biggest competitors as an interior designer. So we're really excited. We're about to raise a seed round and we'll chat.
Great. Big round of applause. There's a lot of people in this space who are doing different ways to help crowdsource interior decorating. Yours is differentiated from them in that people do it for free and then get a commission. And you've already built a prototype. So now my best advice to you is to put together 3 months, 12, maybe even 20 weeks of continued revenue growth. That'll be how people will decide to invest in your company or not. Before you launch, you're selling promise. The promise of what the product will do. Once the product's in market, you now lose the ability to sell promise, and you are forced to sell performance. And some of the metrics I felt were soft metrics, like if the people had clicked, if we had affiliate links, we would have made money. So I think you have to think about how you're going to get that revenue going now. And even if it's small but measurable, will gain the confidence of investors. And the way I would do it is I would meet with 30 investors, get 30 no's, or get 30 not yet's, what you'll likely get, and then say, it was great meeting with you, Jason, Asher, whoever, Cyan. May I put you on our monthly updates so that we can keep informed of what we're doing? No investor ever says no to that because it's an easy way to keep up with you. It gives them good optionality and they don't want to insult you. And then you have to go on a very hardcore mission with your team to go from $100 a week in revenue and every week grow it 5% week over week, 15% week over week. Companies that grow in that 5 to 15% week over week pace have figured something out. And you don't need all clients. You need the right clients. So it seems like you figured out some good designers. You obviously are developers and you know tech and you're able to launch it. The piece you need to know is customer acquisition and monetization. And so figure out those 2 things. Take your basic product and get a chart that shows 5 to 10% growth week over week. And somewhere in the week, between weeks 10 and 20, I would anticipate somebody pulling the trigger. My advice to you is to not wait. A lot of founders are scared to make money. Don't be scared to make money. Don't be afraid to charge. The reason people are afraid to charge is because they're afraid nobody will pay. If nobody pays, it lets you quickly move on to the next idea or version of your software or the next category of customer. Never be afraid to charge.
Thank you guys so much. How many of you guys learned something incredible tonight? Yeah? Right now we just wanted to thank Asher as well as Jason. We have to thank you guys for doing. Thank you so much. And we're just gonna wrap up here.
I'll sign some books.
Yes, he's going to be signing some books for 15 minutes at this table right here. So get your books ready for the first time.